Shiji is a sweet and charming girl working as a waitress in a small cafe. The manager orders her to clean up the water on the floor, but the girl claims it's sweat drops from the hellish labor. Having been ordered to throw away the trash, Shiji hurries to fulfill the errand, as suddenly someone grabs her leg. Frightened, she notices a little boy dreaming of finding his mom. After running away from his father, he hides near a garbage can because he was once told that that's where he could find his mom. Showing sympathy, the girl takes the boy to a cafe and treats him to a meal. The administrator would like to chase the homeless kid away, but Shiji defends him and says that he is their guest, as she paid all the expenses. After learning that the father's name is Lee Chong, she calls the police to report it, not noticing that the man is on TV. Shiji assumes the boy's father is a migrant worker, but he is actually a millionaire investing in construction. A little later, the kid says he has never ridden on a bus and is used to convertibles, but Shiji assumes he is talking about a cheap rickshaw. On the way home, the kid shows extraordinary knowledge and helps the shopkeeper improve the appearance of the shop window, increasing the number of customers. During the night, the boy sleeps restlessly and Shiji soothes him, claiming that mommy is near. The next morning, the receptionist makes the boy eat near the garbage can, believing that's where he belongs. The boy breaks the dishes and the woman demands compensation from Shiji when manager Chen suddenly appears in the store. Recognizing in the boy the son of a millionaire and the owner of the cafe, Chen fires the administrator. In turn, the kid asks Shiji to become his nanny, promising a salary of 3,000 yuan. Upon returning home, the toddler informs his father that he has been to the junkyard and found a wife for him. The next morning, Shiji shows up at the rich man's house for the first time and meets his new housekeeper. The austere girl is overconfident and thinks she can fall in love with Mr. Chong. A little later, the man returns home, but takes the place of the driver who injured his back. Upon arrival, Kay assumes that Mr. Chong has not arrived and the man behind the wheel is his driver. She treats him with disrespect and insults the humble laborer, but Shiji stands up for the stranger, not realizing it is Chong. After an argument between the nanny and the housekeeper, Key offers Shiji to prepare dinner, but not for 30,000 yuan, but for only 300 yuan. Chong continues to pretend to be the driver and helps the girl with the shopping. Realizing that this money is not enough, he makes a phone call, after which all the products in the store become practically free. This allows Shiji to cook an incredible dinner for the landlord. At one point, she burns her hand and Chong takes care of her, which creates an awkward situation. Soon the boy returns home and discovers the spoiled food. The housekeeper blames it on Shiji, but it was actually Kay who ruined some dishes, so the girl gets fired. Seeing a man in a suit, Kay assumes that the driver is letting himself go overboard, but the boy reveals that it's his father. Revealing his true identity, Chong fires the insolent housekeeper. The boy introduces his father to Shiji, claiming that she is his wife, and pushes the girl into his father's arms, which creates an awkward and romantic situation. The next morning, Shiji meets a jealous friend on the road in an expensive car. After arguing, the girl starts driving and fails to notice an old lady at the crosswalk. Shiji is concerned and does not let the jealous friend drive away, demanding that she take the pensioner to the hospital. A little later, Shiji takes care of the old lady and sympathizes with her, learning that the woman can't see anything. The envious friend doesn't want to stay in the hospital and plans to run away when she suddenly learns that the blind grandmother is a relative of Chong. Zhao pretends to be a savior and tricks the old lady into falling in love with her rich grandson. At the same time, Shiji buys food for the woman and returns to the hospital, but to an empty room. Soon Shiji meets a jealous friend, causing Zhao to find herself in an awkward situation in front of Chong and his grandmother. Despite her best attempts to deceive them, Zhao fails to claim to be a rich man's wife. Her grandmother exposes her, for she is blind, but she can hear the girl's voice and feel her hands perfectly. At the same time, Chong's guard arrives with a video camera recording, confirming that it was Zhao who hit her grandmother, and Shiji did not allow her to leave the scene of the accident and demanded that the victim be taken to the hospital. Chong orders the criminal to be taken to the police, and her grandmother gives her a family bracelet, claiming that she will become her grandson's wife. A while later, Shiji cleans the house and Chong, almost falls because of the garbage, but the girl saves him, managing to hug the man tightly. Outside, the girl accidentally meets an old classmate of hers who lives in a wealthy neighborhood. Assuming that Shiji is a housekeeper, the girl gives her a napkin and asks her to wipe her dirty shoes. Not wanting to be humiliated, Shiji rejects the classmate, saying that her fiancé is a rich and powerful man. The classmate doesn't believe it, so she offers to invite him to the reunion, which is to be held in the next few days. Trying to find a man who can pretend to be her boyfriend, Shiji makes an arrangement with an electrician, although Chong hopes that she would pay attention to him. The boy hints to the girl about it, but she is afraid to suggest such a thing to Chong, because he is a very rich and respected man. Soon Shiji goes to the reunion and learns that the electrician has gone to another part-time job and will not be able to accompany her as a boyfriend. Noticing that she has come alone, a classmate taunts the girl, claiming that she has no one and can't have anyone. A few minutes later, Chong appears in the room, claiming to be Shiji's man. The classmate continues to taunt, believing him to be a beggar who rented an expensive suit and hired some friend pretending to be his assistant. She and her husband mock the beggar classmates, for they have bought stock in a large company. Proving her superiority, Chong buys that company in a minute and makes it bankrupt, leading everyone to believe that Shiji is in a relationship with a billionaire. The arrogant man admits that all the money was a loan and asks for the lost funds back, but Chong rejects them due to arrogance, forcing him to pay off the loan for the rest of his life. A few days later, Shiji notices a poor guy on the bus and helps him pay his fare. A little later, he asks to give money to repair his phone. The girl at first refuses, but then changes her mind, because he calls her family. Shiji's father has long left this world, and with her mother and brother she does not communicate after they tried to rob her. Trying to be needed, she helps the stranger and gives him the money, and he gives her his keychain as a thank you. Soon Shiji has to face her mother and brother. They not only kick her out of the house that her father and Shiji bought, but also want to sell it, since her brother is getting married. The girl is against it as this house is a memory of her late father, but she has no say. At the same moment, a stranger whom she helped and a few other men appear near Shiji. They vote in favor of the girl and then persistently help her mother and brother vacate the house so that Shiji can return home. The stranger turns out to be very rich and proposes a relationship, but Chong and his son come on the scene, claiming they are her family. A little later, the rich guy tries a beautiful courtship, but Shiji herself rejects him, choosing Chong and his son. The next morning, Chong helps his son collect empty bottles on the street, as this is the task his teacher has given him. The rich guy notices them and offers them a monetary compensation to leave Shiji alone and not interfere with their relationship. Chong agrees to the deal, but only on the condition that the guy pays him 100 million. Before leaving, the guy informs that he will buy the girl a beautiful piece of jewelry and she will be his immediately. Upon seeing the photo, Shiji declares that she will marry the first person who gives her such a piece of jewelry. Upon hearing this, Chong calls to get to the auction as soon as possible and take possession of the exquisite piece of jewelry. Soon the rich men get into a fight for the jewelry and Chong wins, because he has more money. The guy's family decides to borrow money from a relative and goes to his house. The guy meets Shiji first and then learns that the rich man and his uncle is Chong, whom he thought was a beggar janitor. Showing his love for the girl, Chong gives her an emerald jewelry worth 15 million, which shocks everyone present. A while later, Shiji takes the boy to school and a classmate spits gum at him. The girl takes a photo of the child's father and his car to publish it online and shame the uncultured man. Soon she goes to work and discovers that this man is her immediate boss. He immediately takes advantage of the position and forces Shiji to do humiliating work. A little later, the man drops a folder with documents on the floor and puts his foot on it so that Shiji cannot pick it up. Enraged, the girl achieves what she wants and the boss falls to the ground. When she returns home, she takes care of the project and does not allow Chong, who has become her favorite, to help her. Despite this, the rich man gets involved in the project to finish it by morning. The next afternoon, Chong arrives at the company where Shiji works to sign a cooperation contract. As a project, he is offered the documents he and his girlfriend have been working on all night. Suspecting that Chong is unhappy with the project, the boss calls Shiji to fire him. Instead of criticizing, Chong claims that the project is beautiful and praises the girl, promising to sign a contract to work with their company. He also suggests firing her boss, who tried to earn a bonus and lied about helping Shichi. Chong exposes himself as the girl's man and insists that she be promoted and given a higher position. A few days later, Shichi notices the girl losing a dime under the water machine, who was also insulted by her coworker. Assuming that she has no money at all and even these pennies made her upset, Shichi buys the girl water and goes to work, not noticing that this beauty has an expensive sports car and does not need money. A little later, it becomes known that the modest girl near the water machine is Shichi's new coworker, and an angry girl who thinks she is beautiful and worthy of a rich man. Noticing the man bringing gifts, the evil coworker assumes that Michael is rich and asks him out on a date. In the meantime, Shichi continues to spend time with the young coworker. Soon, Shichi and the angry coworker are arguing as Lin spends other people's money to earn Michael's attention. Their argument is stopped by the chairman, who says that his child has already been here and he will give the shares to someone he befriends. Lin assumes it's about her, but the chairman doesn't have a son. As it turns out, his child is Shichi's new colleague and friend, which makes her the one who gets 10% of the company's shares. Kunkan also reveals the identity of Michael, who turns out to be a con artist, causing all the money Lin had invested to disappear. A few weeks later, Shichi goes to work at Chong's company, but asks him to hide their relationship so she can befriend her coworkers. Chong doesn't want to leave her alone, so he asks his assistant to take care of her. Seeing Shichi with Chen, the coworkers assume she is his sister. One of the coworkers changes his attitude towards the girl and decides to get to know her better. San takes every opportunity to talk to Shichi and pretends to be nice, but at the same time he won't let his pregnant colleague go on vacation. Shichi notices this and stands up for the girl, causing San to change his mind. A little later, San learns that Chen and Shichi are not related. Believing that the girl has been deceiving her coworkers, he kicks her out of the office and orders her to pack up her things as soon as possible. Shichi has no intention of leaving, which leads to a conflict. San is ready to hit her on the head with a box of things, but at that moment Chong appears, who intervenes in the situation and protects his favorite girl. Seeing his boss in front of him, San tries to explain the reason for the conflict and says that only a total loser can date a girl like Shichi. Upon learning that the girl is in a relationship with Chong, San faints. In the evening, the couple goes to a sidewalk cafe to have dinner. At some point, Chong has to go back to work and Shichi meets a cousin. The cousin thinks the girl is very poor as she picks up food that has fallen on the ground. The cousin does not believe that Shichi is dating a rich man, believing that she is in a relationship with a poor man and a child. During the argument, she allows Shichi to prove otherwise if she comes with the man to their grandfather's celebration. A couple of days later, Chong buys a piece of wild agate jewelry for the girl's grandfather that costs as much as an apartment or an expensive car. After going to the celebration, Shichi wishes her grandfather a happy birthday and continues to clash with her demeaning cousin. Believing it to be a cheap piece of jewelry, the cousin throws the bracelet away, causing it to tear and the stones to fly in different directions. Continuing to assert herself, the cousin calls Shichi a beggar and claims that she has found herself a rich husband with an income of over 3 million. The cousin claims that her husband is Chong, but at the same time the real Chong appears in the room. The cousin tries to make Shichi's man appear to be a fraud, but he easily proves otherwise thanks to his extensive connections. As it turns out, the cousin's fiancé is a con man who often impersonated Chong to steal money, so he is arrested and sent to jail. The cousin is willing to compensate for the value of the bracelet until she discovers that its price is almost $1.5 million. Sometime later, Shichi witnesses again how the boss offends one of the girls. She stands up for her new coworker and becomes her friend. The girl, who has a small child, has recently started work and has no money to treat her colleagues to expensive coffee. The boss immediately points this out, but Shichi defends her colleague, not allowing her to be offended. During the argument, the woman orders Shichi and her friend to finish a project for an important client in 24 hours, which usually takes at least a week. With no plans to give in, Shiji puts her boss in her place and then spends the entire night preparing the responsible project with her friend. Discovering that the baby can't sleep, they go to the new colleague's home and play with the baby to calm him down. In Shiji's hands, the baby immediately falls asleep, which allows the girls to return to work. In the morning, the girls successfully present the project, and the manager warns their boss that Shiji or her coworker may take the boss's place in her place. In an attempt to get rid of them, the woman orders the girls to cook dinner for the distinguished gentleman, but it turns out that he doesn't like spicy food. Shiji may get fired, but it turns out that her new friend is the wife of Zhang, who is a philanderer. A little later, her friend gives Shiji a brand new car as a thank you for her help with her son, and this time the girl faints, not believing her own happiness. Soon, a cousin comes to visit Shiji, who dreams of living the same rich life. Noticing the driver, Dong suspects that it is Mr. Chong and decides to get to know him better. Shiji tries to explain that it's the driver and he's not young, but Dong isn't going to listen to her. She takes every opportunity to be near the man and tries to woo him. The driver serves spicy food, but Dong is willing to try it and praises the dish despite the horrible taste. While Shiji goes off to his room, Dong takes the opportunity to get close to the man and hug him. She eventually manages to get what she wants and kisses the man, which shocks Shiji. The girl decides to play along with her cousin, but is warned that Chong is raising a child and is not as rich as many people think. By evening, Dong manages to become the man's wife, believing that she is now insanely rich. In the evening, she packs up Shiji's things to kick her out on the street, but Chong, who has been away on a business trip, returns home. Upon learning that she married not a rich man but a driver, Dong faints. A while later, the boy wonders when his father and Shiji will finally become husband and wife. Soon, a distant relative arrives at Xiong's house with a liking for him. She tries to get the man's attention, but the plan fails, for there is only his beloved Shiji for him. A little later, the three of them go to a clothing store and the relative asks Chong to pay for her purchases. Instead, he gives her a battery so that the girl charges her phone and pays for all the things herself. Upon returning home, a distant relative decides to befriend Chong's son. She prepares dinner for the boy, but he refuses to eat, fearing he is allergic to seafood. The girl forces the child to eat, but Shiji notices this and kicks her out of the boy's room. Soon it becomes known that Xiao is not a son, but Chong's nephew. The boy's parents lost their lives, so Chong took him in and took over Xiao's upbringing like a father. Shiji and the girl quarrel, but this is heard by Chong, who kicks the relative out and proposes to Shiji to be his wife. A few days later, Shiji notices Mr. Jiang arguing with a guard. Unable to tolerate the injustice, she defends the not-so-young guard. Not tolerating this attitude, Mr. Jiang takes revenge on the girl and doesn't let her sit on the chair, forcing her to work hard. Soon the old guard decides to thank Shiji and orders 5 subordinates to do all the work in her place. Noticing that Shiji is not working, the boss decides to frame her by ruining an expensive painting with chicken feathers glued to the canvas. Chong soon shows up to defend his wife and an old man who is actually the chairman of the company and Chong's father. Unable to tolerate injustice, they fire Shiji's boss and protect the girl by writing her a multi-million-dollar bonus. A few months later, Shiji finds out that she is pregnant and expecting a baby. She does not want her colleagues to know about it and asks Chong to hide this information. During a job interview, the girl vomits, and new boss Kang suspects that this is a reaction in his direction. After learning of Shiji's pregnancy, he offers the girl a vacation, but she refuses, claiming she can work. Deciding to make sure of the opposite, Kang assigns her a new project, and in the evening, he notices her in Chong's company, but does not realize that they are husband and wife. The next morning, Shiji turns in her work and shows a dozen diplomas proving her professionalism. She asks for a separate office and Kang fulfills her request, but gives her a horrible room with rats. Deciding not to give up, Shiji tidies up the room and tames the rodents. Kang decides to make fun of her and makes her jump rope after lunch. Unable to tolerate the rudeness, she tries to call her husband, and the boss tries to take away the phone until she realizes that Shiji is married to Chong. Knowing that Kang has discriminated against women, Chong sends him to work in Africa. Soon, Shichi is visited by two friends who are openly jealous of her. Trying to quarrel her with her husband and son, one of the girls tells the boy that Shiji will not love him after the birth of the child because she is just a stepmother to him, not his own mother. A little later, the girlfriend suggests that Ciel run away, and he does so. Realizing that this is the girlfriend's doing, Shichi punches her in the face. The friend's husband finds out what happened and promises to divorce her. A little later, Ciel returns home, and it turns out that he didn't intend to run away, because he has no doubt that Chong and Shiji will be great parents for him.